this is probably the best signing we've made out of all of them. You know, the likes of Real Madrid and Cole were sniffing around for him. We're getting in at a time when, yes, 50 million or whatever it was looks like a lot of money, but he'll be worth double that, in my opinion, in a couple of years' time. He will be a success.
Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is Off the Bar, and today it is going to be a INEOS transfers tier list of all the players INEOS have brought in. They've changed the way we do things at Man United. We're going to rank, actually, are they any good? Adam McKola, are you all right? What are you snickering about?
You said they've changed the way we do things here.
They have, though, haven't
Things
they?
are different now.
Do you not think they have?
I mean, yeah, you know what?
I think it's quite a notable difference.
In transfers, yes, you're right.
Yeah, well, I think it's changed across the board. But Jay Mott is here as well. How are you?
I'm good, man. No, I'll get your point. I like the signings that we've made under INEOS. I think they've been better, but we'll see.
Well, that's
I know that sounds daft because we're 15.
Going to go through them. Well, we're going to go through them, and obviously this is all accepting the fact that we've had less than a season, and in some cases since January with some of these players. But we're entering that next wave of who are United going to sign in the summer. They're going to be looking at targets now, and we kind of want to piece together: are we liking what we're seeing so far from INEOS in the window? Because off the pitch, it's been, you know, changes in prices, changes in structure, changes in everyone, including the manager, all the way up to board level. We've had massive redundancies. We've announced a new stadium. We've already basically almost finished the training ground. It's the most upheaval and sort of changes in how United's been run, certainly in my lifetime. Maybe in the last, I don't even know how many years. It's a massive, massive change at Manchester United. So let's start with a player that, I'm not sure if it was the first signing, but he sort of came in a pair. And I'll start with Noussair Mazraoui. He came obviously with De Ligt, who we'll get onto in a minute. Mazraoui, I think the first sort of spell of him at United pre-Christmas under Ten Hag was, he's probably a standout player, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
One of our best players at the early part of the season. He's had a couple of ups and downs since then, but I'll start with you, Adam. What do you make of Mazraoui and how he's been for United?
Yeah, I think he's been really good. I think the best way to describe him, I was like, what game was it? I think it was a Sociedad game, and I was kind of on Twitter. I was listing who had played well in a tweet, and I just didn't even mention him.
Yeah,
because he plays well pretty much every single time he plays, and it goes under the radar a little bit now because you expect him to play well. I think he had a little bit of a dip in form in the middle of the season, but generally speaking, has been an ever-present. Has been consistently good for Manchester United, whether he's playing as one of the centre backs or as one of the wing backs, and I think, it's a great start to the window when that's your first signing for 15 million. Yeah. Which people tend to forget as well. Cost 15 million. 15
million euros as well.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. So even less in pounds. It is mad. It is a hell of a deal. What have you made of him? We'll get to a rating in a minute, but it's either failure, decent or success. We'll come to that. We'll come together for that. But what have you thought about him?
At the same time?
We'll all come at the same time and we'll designate him in one of those categories.
No, I agree with Mac. I think he's been really good. Good signing. Obviously a bargain. I also think with Mazraoui, like, if Mazraoui has one of his worst games, he's still okay. Yeah. He's still all right. Like, if Delors has a stinker, worst games. If Delors has a stinker, you know he's having a stinker. Yeah. Like, it's obvious. Where with Mazraoui, you think, he might have been a bit quiet, or he's not really stamped his authority in the defence or whatever. I remember Newcastle was the one that stands out in my memory where he was having all sorts of trouble with Anthony Gordon. But other than that, I think there's not been many games where you go, he's had a bad game today. Yeah. It's just the levels were quite high when he came in. And let's not forget, he came in was it like the day before the Fulham game and made his debut in the Fulham game?
Yeah.
Like, he was straight into the team and he looked like he'd been playing for United for years, and that's not easy. So I've been really impressed with him. I think he's been mint.
The thing with Mazraoui for me is like you said, he's got a very high floor, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like, he's not always going to be marauding past everyone and smacking it in from 25 yards, or, I don't expect him to ever really do that. But he's never terrible. Because he's got such good just like balance and like hand-eye, hand-leg coordination. He almost can't help but put in a decent performance.
His ball retention is very good.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
His fundamentals are just so strong.
Spaces.
Yeah, and I feel like he's the sort of person that if you played table tennis with him, he'd absolutely wipe the floor with you. If you played cricket with him, he'd bat it. Like, he's just got a real control over his body and his limbs in a way that I just think he's just very, very solid. And for 15 million, the one thing that we were worried about when he came in was his injury record last few years has been pretty poor. But I don't know what's changed, whether it's just luck, and we'll see going forward. But he's been fit almost all season, I think all season, which is a fantastic thing. Where do we think he ranks on our little list there? I would go as far as to say, including the fee, the fact that he is 15 million euros, I think a success.
I think
personally,
it's hard to argue against that. I think he has been a success.
I think it's success as well.
Played loads of games, cost next to nothing, and put in some great performances.
Yeah, and when you think of when you think of good performance to pound ratio, he doesn't even have to have that many good ones before you're like, he's worth it. Like Eriksen, we were talking the other night about Christian Eriksen, because he was free, even though he only had one decent season.
Yeah,
it's worth it because, you know, I know he's got wages, but we didn't pay anything for him. So yeah, Mazraoui, immediately a success. Let's go straight to his kind of Bayern Munich teammate that came with him, came together in that package. Sorry, cut that.
No, we don't cut that. We'll leave it in. We don't cut things on off the bar. Together.
Everyone coming together is a joyful thing.
Yeah, coming together in your package.
Noussair Mazraoui and De Ligt came together in that package.
He double did.
I know. With the hand actions and everything.
I think it started around 50 million euros, didn't it? Something like 35 and 12, I think, to start with, that can rise up to more like 60, 70 million euros. But again, around 35 million, I think we've paid for him so far.
Yeah.
What have you made of De Ligt?
Who are we talking? De Ligt?
Yes.
Matthijs. I love De Ligt. I think he's fantastic. It's annoying because I always wanted like him and Frankie de Jong, and we ended up with fucking Donny van der Beek out of that lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
But bringing De Ligt in, I think, big move. I was excited when we made it. I was glad the transfer fee weren't as high as it maybe could have been at various other points in his career. And I think he's taken to Manchester United like a duck to water. I think he understands the size of the job. I think he understands, you know, the weight of the shirt and the badge. I think he fights every single minute. I'd go as far as to say he's exactly what we thought we were buying when we bought Harry Maguire. And that's not to criticise Harry Maguire. I think Harry Maguire's shown some improvements recently, and you think of his work ethic and the way he'd fight for his United shirt. I think, you know, he has some equal traits in that. But I just think De Ligt's just such a good footballer. Passing through the lines is there. Goal line clearances is there. Marking his man. I think he's had the amount of bad games he's had, you can count on one hand. Like Anfield was one, I think, where he didn't particularly perform well. Yeah. And I know he's had moments in other games, but generally speaking, he's been solid.
Yeah, very few bad performances. What have you made of that, you know, that package that they both came in?
Yeah, I agree with Maka again. I think that it's been meant. He's a proper leader, isn't he?
Yes.
You know what I mean? We did a video on it the other day. He's captain in Ajax at 18, 19 for a reason. You can see that. I noticed it from his very first appearance. He was talking to his teammates. We've lacked a bit of that, and he shows it. And I think he's actually growing into his role in the United team. He's playing pretty much every game now, and he's putting his performances have been far more consistent, and I think we're seeing that player that we saw at Ajax and at Juve and at Bayern Munich, because people have tried to rewrite history and say, oh, he sort of flopped at Juve, so they sold him to Bayern Munich, which is nonsense. That's not. He chose to go to Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich chased after him because he'd done so well. And then at Bayern Munich, he wasn't getting in the team. Well, he was. Every time he was available, he pretty much played. So I'm glad we've got him, and I hope De Ligt stays around for a long time, you know. I hope he's only 25 now. I'd love it if he stayed to like into his 30s, because I think there's a defender there that could be a future United captain.
I think he's defo captain material.
100%.
Even if he's not captain.
Yeah. And that's all right.
That's what you need, isn't it?
We used to have loads of them.
Every successful United team had like 4 or 5 players who could be leaders. At the minute, it feels like you got 1 or 2. We need more players like Matthijs De Ligt.
Yeah.
And you can tell from watching the early clips of him in training as well, you could tell he was a leader in training.
Yeah.
In terms of the front of the queue for all the drills, you know, making sure everyone's passes were on point, things like that. I think he's massively important. And he's the right age, like 25. He could be like a centre point to this project under Amorim, I think.
I completely agree. And he'll have a bit more experience than some of the players we're going to go on to. Weirdly, we've already covered the 2 oldest of the players we signed, and they're 26 and 25 in Mazraoui and De Ligt respectively. It's very young to say that's like the upper threshold of what we're going for. We're going with success again for De Ligt.
I think decent success. Like the reason I wouldn't, because he could stink the place out next year, and you go, well, that was a failure, wasn't it?
Can you see that happening, no, Maka?
No.
With his ability,
maybe injuries, but
But even like he's only had injuries at Bayern in particular, but I just think he looks the real deal, and I think he's only going to get better as well, because you could see those first. I know what you were saying about the first few months. There was a couple of moments in games where you like
the Porto away game. I thought the Martinez.
Yeah, you could see it was catching up with him a little bit, perhaps, or whatever. But now he just sort of proper looks at home, and it's not easy coming into Manchester United side, especially this one that's struggling. But he's looked mint. So I think I just can't imagine him doing anything other than getting bar.
Yeah, let's move on to the next transfer then. And this one, I think he's had more ups and downs than those two. Those were a bit easy. Joshua Zirkzee. I know obviously Adam's a big fan, and he's got some very good qualities, but it's not all been good.
Again, though, on Big Zirk,
brilliant.
One of the things that is a common theme throughout all of these players is they've got the right mentality for it. And obviously his mentality was tested when he got booed at Old Trafford. He goes off the pitch looking like he's about to cry. I thought it was the end of him as a Manchester United player. He went into the dressing room. I think he could have very easily not come back out of the dressing room that day. And I think he had a word with himself. Remember when you was a little kid and you'd start crying and you'd be like, no, I can't let to do this, and it's just got to stop and get out of there. I think he had that little conversation with himself, like, don't let them do this to you. Like, wipe your tears, get back out there, get back on the bench, and don't worry, this will be all right. And I think since then we've seen a change in him, in his mentality. I think he's also maybe lost a little bit of weight as well that he was carrying, because he's a big boy. So I think mentality first, he's shown he's got it to succeed. In terms of ability, I think he's got bags of ability. I think he's a willing runner. He's willing press, like in terms of the press. And then on the ball is immaculate, I think. The only thing with him is a 9 or a 9.5 or whatever you want to call him. He does need to want to score a little bit more.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I think there's something there. And whether that's at Manchester United or not, I think Joshua Zirkzee will be a big player.
What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I feel it's annoying because I think if we had a goal scorer in the number 9 position and Zirkzee playing where he's been playing recently, it'd be perfect. It'd be ideal, because on the ball, you see all these clips doing the rounds on social media. He's an entertainer, gets the crowd going. The problem is we ain't scoring enough goals, and he's not really a goal scorer. So when you've not got him really scoring, Rasmus Højlund's got 1 in 22, then it's all on Bruno again to get the goals, and that's the only issue I've got with Joshua Zirkzee. I think as a footballer, he's great to watch. He can skip past players, he can keep hold of the ball very well. He's just got a bag of tricks, and he always doesn't matter if you're 1-0 down or 2-0 up. He plays the same way, which at times can be a little bit baffling, but it is kind of impressive. It's just that the lack of goals that's the issue, and that's just not on him. Like I said, if there was other players weighing in, it'd be ideal for him. But when you've got a front three of, say, Garnacho, Zirkzee and Højlund, and they've got about 2 or 3 Premier League goals between him in the last few months, that's the issue.
But again, before he arrived, not him, but there seemed to be a bit of an acceptance of things aren't going my way, like heads drop, and it's all feeling sorry for myself. He hasn't got that.
I agree.
I admire that with him.
Yeah, he has got that swagger that you need from a United player.
He seems to want to fight. There's something there to work with as well.
I mean, I definitely want him to stay at United. I don't know. There's maybe sort of slight rumours that maybe somebody could go back to Italy or whatever. I think if United brought in a more out-and-out goal scorer as the number 9, maybe to rotate with Højlund or however that works, then there's a role for Joshua Zirkzee in his team. I think just at the minute, the issue I've got is just the lack of goals across that front three.
Yeah, and I've got a few more concerns, I think, with Zirkzee.
Fair enough.
And I agree with the positives that you've said. I think technically he's good. His dribbling's really nice. He sees space very well. My worry is sometimes he doesn't have the physical attributes to execute on that vision that he has.
Yeah.
Like sometimes against Sociedad, it was noticeable for me that he actually looked quicker than the opposition. Whereas normally he's the one who might lose that foot race or who knocks it and then someone gets in front of him. I think I worry about his pace a little bit, and I worry in a high pressing, really energetic team, does he have the legs to press and push and keep pushing for 70, 80 minutes? I'm not sure at the moment. Maybe like you said, Adam, if he is losing a bit of weight, he's working on his fitness, he's working on that. I don't know if he's got that innate kind of
I think getting runners around him is important in terms of to get the best out of him as well. Once you create those spaces between him and he's got runners going each way and he's got a little bit of space to work with, because that was the problem before that. When he was having a bad time of it, he was really occupying in really small places on the pitch.
Yeah, he was.
And at the moment he's found that right balance, he just drops off into nice areas and he can pick his pass. But if I was going to rank him, I'd say decent.
Yeah, I'd be between meh and decent.
I think it's been more than meh because there's a little bit of there's a fucking player here.
Yeah,
there's something going on. There's like I can feel it, I can see it, I can taste it almost.
Yeah. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, you can't ignore the way he's responded as well to getting booed. Like,
should we boo more people?
I know. I saw you on the overlap saying that.
Just to
don't put ideas in people's heads, Macca. You'll hear it next week.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on. I kind of understand what you mean because there are parts of it where you go, look, he didn't get booed because he was playing well. He got booed. It wasn't just him. I felt it was a bit harsh just to blame him. But there was an issue around his performances. I get that. So it's not like he's come in and smashed it. But I think more recently he seems to have, like, similar to De Ligt, but not to the same extent. He's grown into that role a little bit more. There's a player, I just wish he could get some more goals. That's my only issue. So I think decent is fair, but I understand the point you're making about being between decent and meh, because I think on the whole, as his United career so far, I know it's only a short amount of time, he has flattered to deceive a little bit.
Yeah, and we're holding him to his standards from the first 2 months he was here, and saying he's improved and he's got a lot better. But if we're holding him to the standards of a €40 million striker, when we already weren't scoring, I think it's been a bit of a struggle for him on the whole. He is improving, which is why we've got this kind of upbeat feeling about him, and we're finally at least starting to see what his qualities are. But is it that we're just comparing that to early in the season when we couldn't really even tell what he was good at?
No, because he does things that most players can't.
Okay.
He has got those. I think he's got an ability that not many players have.
Right.
In terms of that on the ball trickery is. Even just the swagger that he approaches the play, he's very unique.
Yeah, he is. So all right then. Are you two going for decent then?
Yeah, I got.
Yeah,
decent. I think decent's fair.
I don't think anyone has really
assessment.
been a success bar Mazraoui really, because I think there's so much more to come. We need to see where we're at in someone like what is happening next season. Can they be part of a successful Manchester United team to where,
Of course. And what I'm always saying is success within the team and system they've found themselves in, not by Man United standards. No, obviously.
There's a reason we're 13th, but I do actually think, and we're probably going to show. I don't think the signings we've made under INEOS are the issue.
No, so pop him in decent there. Let's move on to another player that was a bit more money, €50 million, 23 years old. It was a bit of an ongoing kind of will we, won't we? They want more, we want less. From PSG, Manuel Ugarte. His time was. Started off, there was a few question marks, a little heavy touch here and there, maybe a misplaced pass, and people thought, oh God, is he just this terrier who wins the ball? I
went very early. I was wrong too.
You Ronaldo Brown did it early, didn't you?
And then I felt like up until his most recent injury, he was really finding a run of form. He was excellent against Liverpool. He was excellent in a few of those European games as well. He was like building and building and building. Then he's had this injury and he's just coming back and kind of finding himself again. What have you made of him? I'll start with you, Jay. What have you made of Ugarte overall? What he brings?
Well, I didn't know much about him at PSG, so I didn't have a sort of an opinion on him already. I was waiting to see what he'd do in a United shirt, and I was impressed. I thought he was the type of player that we needed. I thought he looks, not only can he get stuck in and make a tackle and things like that, he's actually quite good on the ball as well. Yeah. So I was impressed. I think he's had a sort of bit of an up and down relationship with certain fans as well, because I've seen him getting a little bit of criticism more recently, and is he a little bit overrated or whatever, which I think is a bit mad. But I like him. I think he's been a good player so far, but I'm hoping there's a little bit more to come from him. Yeah, I'm hoping we're not quite seeing the best of Manuel Ugarte yet. And I think that the problem he's got, and that almost every player's got in a minute, the team's constantly changing with the amount of injuries we've got. He's obviously playing for his second manager since he's been at the club, because Amorim came in after Ten Hag. So I just feel like once you have a pre-season and a bit more of a settled team, I think next season we'll truly see the proper even Manuel Ugarte. But I think we've seen enough of him so far to know there's a player there 100%.
Yeah. And Adam, just to give you a few numbers, defensively in particular, for tackles and tackles won, dribblers tackled, dribblers challenged, all of these sorts of defensive numbers, tackles and interceptions, is in the top 10% of defensive midfielders in Europe's top.
Well, it was top one in it in tackles before he joined United.
Per 90, I think he still is right up there. He's defensive numbers wise.
I think on the ball we could maybe be offered a little bit more. But I think sometimes when you get a person in that role, especially if you've got the two sitting players. You have one that's just a destroyer like him, and the other one who can move the ball a bit quicker. Because that's what we see with Casemiro. The big difference when Casemiro comes in is we've got some, like, you know, the pass for Delot and Bruno's goal. Ugarte don't have that in his locker. But he has an engine on him, constantly making tackles. I think Ugarte has been a good signing, but I can also understand why PSG let him go when you watch their current team, because he's not that footballer that, you know, will just slot into there. Yeah. So I get it, but I've been pleased with him.
Who was it? Was it Neves they brought in?
Yeah.
To basically replace him.
I also think as well, when because we've kind of taken away a central midfielder in place of a centre back. But because of that, you then get your two wing backs. So when you think about it, you've got your two wing backs, your two 10s, and your striker, and one of the midfielders pushing up.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of people who should be getting an attack. And I also think that once we've got wing backs that are more capable on the front foot and in the final third, we'll ask less and less of Ugarte as an attacking force. We don't really have that at the minute. We've got defenders. I know Dorgu can do it a bit more, but we've got defenders playing as wing backs. And we've got 9s and 10s and 8s playing as 10s. I really like Ugarte, and I think he's the sort of player that everyone needs one of them at least in their squad. Because for certain games, he'll be the best player on the pitch. When you're playing in those tough European games, or you're playing away at Anfield or wherever, I thought him in that midfield dominated that game.
He knows the manager as well.
Yeah, and that's another good thing as well. I'm going to say decent. I don't think he's quite been a success yet, and he costs more than everyone except Yoro. I would say decent.
Outside of Maz, I don't think anyone can truly be a success yet on here. Okay. But I think, Ugarte is decent.
Yeah, Jay?
Yeah, I think that's fair, isn't it? It'd be a bit of a stretch to say success, because it's not his fault, but for the first few weeks he wasn't even playing, was it? It was like Ten Hag was kind of making a statement that he didn't quite want him or whatever. I don't know, you know, it was a bit daft, to be honest with you, but he's obviously missed a few games for injury as well, but when he has played, by and large, he's been a good player.
Yeah. Let's talk about a signing that we've not seen as much of, Chido Heaven from Arsenal. And this is, I'm going to do Aiden Heaven next as well, just so we kind of have this cluster of similar type signings where they both played for Arsenal, they were both coming to the end of their academy deals, I think, and we sort of swooped in and got them both on a free, but with a little bit of compensation.
Can I just add, by the way?
Go.
If this was happening to Manchester, I know Arsenal fans try and make themselves feel better and say Chido wasn't going to be in their first team and Aiden Heaven, or they all left for money and all these kind of different things, despite the fact Chido was breaking records left, right and centre for their academy.
He wasn't going to be enough.
And it's not like they don't need a striker.
16, so he's rubbish.
But also, if a couple of our top talents were leaving and going to Arsenal whilst we're 15th in the league, do you know the headlines that would be circulating around Man United right now?
Yeah.
Because we're 15th, no one really cares.
Yeah.
But this should be looked at as a big deal.
Yeah.
The fact that our academy, and if they fuck around and mess about, we might come for some more of them.
Yeah.
They got to be careful, you know.
Yeah. Do you like what maybe we should do these both together, because none of them have played enough to be considered.
We're not ranking them.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. I was just
unfair to do that to academy.
They've not played enough, and they're too young to be considered success or decent. But do you like this model? This kind of approaching youngsters, and in this case, real youngsters, 17 and 18-year-olds from other clubs, really cheap, low fees, if any fee. Have you enjoyed seeing this kind of slight change of tact?
Yeah, I think we need to. We're going to be looking at things like PSR, like we have the money to spend that we have had in the past. We seem to be looking more at what players are doing at academy level, and the likes of Aiden Heaven. I think he played 10 minutes of first team, so we didn't buy him off the back of that. We bought him off the back of what he'd been doing for Arsenal's academy and at younger ages as well. And it's the same with Chido. So I think it's a good model to have. We've seen the likes of Sekakone as well coming in.
Yeah.
I know he came in from abroad, but again, another youngster. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think you can sort of supplement some of your bigger signings if you can get youngsters in, have a little bit more of a long-term plan. I think the sort of the job, if you will, of United fans is to try and be patient with these guys. It's easy to look at him. Heaven might be the exception because he come in straight away and he smashed it, and now he's almost like, when he got injured, everyone's like, Jesus Christ, we need him back in the team. Yeah,
we need to get back up for
with Chido, we've got to have a little bit more patience. Yes, he's been breaking records and he's been smashing it, but he's still only 17. he's still finding his feet in professional football. So I do think we have to temper our expectations a little bit. But so far, what I saw, I think was it the Fulham game where he came on, he looked very lively indeed.
Yeah.
And he obviously has done well at youth level. So, yeah, it makes sense to me. It's a good model to pursue.
I love it. I think it's a really good model. I think this idea of like, when you're speaking to Finn, obviously Academy Scoop, I know a lot of people watch the show and follow him on social media. He knows a lot more about the Academy ins and outs than I do.
Yeah.
But this whole thing, it's almost like we've decided, let's look at the kind of career cycle of an Academy player. Where is the weakness? And we've realised that this, between signing your Academy stuff and your professional stuff, there's a genuine fault point in like you basically become a free agent and then sign a new deal almost. And we've targeted that multiple times already within the first 12 months of INEOS being here. And I don't know if it's them or if it's people they've brought or we were going to be doing it anyway. But I think it's fantastic. And if you can offer them, I think I saw a stat that United have given the second most minutes to teenagers of any Premier League team this season. You get to play for one of the biggest clubs in the world and you're actually going to get minutes. Finding that fault point and focusing on it, we could get some absolute gems doing this. I think it's a fantastic idea and keep doing it. And Diego Leon, we'll put him in this as well. Again, he's not even played yet. He might even be staying on loan. But another 17-year-old, 3.1 million, not quite the same situation because I think he's playing first team football. But again, it's this very, very young players for very, very little fee, very low risk, and with the likes
if you give him a debut and sell him for 5 million,
exactly,
it's all pure profit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're not going to rank him on there, but I absolutely love this as a model, and it's like we've almost found this little cheat code of that point there. They can sign for you for free or just about free. I love it. Let's talk about Leny Yoro. Because he's one that he's been a bit different to the rest. He's younger, he costs more than anyone else. He was 60 million euros. We kind of had to fend off Real Madrid. He's considered one of the best young talents in world football. He started his career by having a broken foot, which obviously isn't a great position for anyone to be in. And he's kind of had a bit more...
That helped him.
Well, go on then.
He wasn't involved with the Ten Hag mess.
He didn't play once under Ten Hag.
He wasn't involved with that mess. He wasn't scarred by it. He weren't... And you know, like if he had played in it and you got all this pressure of the manager that brought me here might get sacked, some players might not be playing for him, you know, all that kind of thing, and you start to see Leny Yoro just drowning in that mess.
Yeah.
I think it would probably have changed a lot of opinions on him. But the fact that he got to miss out on all that, came in later, he hasn't played loads of football. We've played him, kind of taking him in and out of the team, which I think has benefited him a lot. I've been really impressed with him when he has played. Not to go too far and understand that there's a big gap between them, but he reminds me of Rio as a defender. He's of that mould of defender. This is probably the best signing we've made out of all of them, but we won't know it until about 3 years down the line.
Right.
I genuinely think it's
Why do you think it's the best signing we've made?
Because centre backs are big deals.
Yeah.
The likes of Real Madrid and Co were sniffing around for him. We're getting in at a time when, yes, 50 million or whatever it was looks like a lot of money, but he'll be worth double that, in my opinion, in a couple of years' time. He will be a success. Like right now, it's decent. Who cares? But he will go down as a success. I have no doubts about it.
Do you agree with him, Jay?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know the sort of situation with some of the injuries, how serious that is, and whether that's a slight concern. I won't say he's injury prone, but he's obviously had a couple of injuries since he's been at Old Trafford, and there was talk one that he was almost carrying one of them, or one of them was historic. So that is a worry with any young player when you see him. And I know he's still, you can forget he's young because he's had a big money move. He's still a teenager. He's had a couple of injuries. That's the only way I could see this not working out the way we want it to. Because in terms of ability, he's fantastic. You can see there's a player there. I mean, I've been very impressed, and the pace he's got as well, and the timing of his tackles. He's like a proper old school defender in some respects. I know he's quite a modern one, but you know when you see him throwing himself into those tackles and just timing them perfectly.
It was Darwin Núñez won it.
Like one at Anfield. You're like, that's mint. I love seeing that. So if he stays relatively injury free, I agree, Mac. I think he'll have a very, very bright future at United.
Yeah.
What happened with Varane? We missed out on him, and he goes on as his career at. Like we're getting, you know, when people go, why aren't we getting them before they become Varane? Or, you know, like, why? This is what we've just done with Leny Yoro, I think.
And looking at the ages of these players, you know, we've still got Patrick Dorgu to talk about, who's 20. Leon is 17, Chido the same, Heaven 18, Yoro 18. Even Manuel Ugarte, who feels a bit older, but it's only 23.
I was like 27.
Yeah, I was a bit worried when we got Yoro because I thought you've got to be off your head to what comes to United over Real Madrid and the state we're in at the minute. But he obviously wants to play football. Saw he was going to get more games at United and can see that there's, the size of the club. We're still a big club. We don't pretend United are small. And he's determined to make it work. So, yeah, more power to him.
And where would we put him so far? I know, like you said, Adam, he's not played as many games as everyone else. He's younger. He's a different type.
He's been good whenever he's played.
Yeah,
so I'd say decent. But we're not really going to... It'll be the next few years where we realise,
he was never meant to be world class right now, was it? Yeah. I would say decent as well. And like you said, I like what it means as a transfer that we can get these sorts of players.
Pete, you can almost forget as well, can't you? Like teenagers playing in the Premier League and playing for Manchester United in defence. It's not common. It doesn't happen a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like
it never happens.
We almost normalise it, don't we? Like, oh, he's 18.
Oh, Phil Jones was the last one.
Yeah, that's like.
And I know he was really good, Phil Jones. But
like
how that ended.
It's not. It's impressive how quickly he's adapted and looks like the real deal.
Yeah, let's put Yoro up there in decent then. And finally, for this section, Patrick Dorgu. Not been here as long as everyone else, obviously. Again, 20 years old. That Sociedad performance for me has completely changed how I view Patrick Dorgu. When I first saw him play, I thought, I like him. We need to see a bit more finesse in the final third. I can't see him sort of skinning someone and finding a nice shot into the top corner or bottom corner. And maybe I think he still needs to improve on that, angle of things. But he covered that left-hand side and just dominated that left-hand side. Whether it be tackles, just tracking his man, making runs off the ball, overlaps, putting the ball in the box. He just was like, that's his area. If you're in that, you enter Dorgu's world and you're going to have a nightmare. And I just thought that was phenomenal. I've not seen someone physically just sort of dominate a side of the pitch like that from wing-back all season. And he did that in that game against Sociedad. And if that can be a sign of things to come, I think he's a very, very exciting player. And again, another one, 30 million euros. So what's that, 25 million quid? It's not much, is it?
And most of that isn't paid yet.
No.
Yeah, I think a big chunk of that isn't paid yet. Again, like, buying players for the manager and what the manager wants, I think is massively important. And you see the difference he's made with just one signing coming in during his time here. Imagine what happens when he gets 3 or 4 of them. But I've been impressed with Dorgu. And again, like you, like, the games before, I was impressed with him, but it was still a bit, don't know what's going on here. He played on the left in his first game. It was a bit...
On the right.
On the right in his first game. It was a bit hit and miss. And yeah, I've been really impressed with Patrick Dorgu. And it's what it offers us as well. It's physicality. He doesn't stop running. There's some quality on the ball as well. He can play in the system that the manager wants him to play in. I even think if we wanted to push him further up, we could do that if we needed to as one of the front three. Weirdly, it could work.
He's played as a right winger for Lecce, didn't he?
Yeah, I like Dorgu.
Yeah.
Again, hard work. All of these players, they all want to graft. They all want to work hard. They've all got room to improve.
Yeah.
They all are pretty decent for the here and now. And if this is a sign of where our recruitment's going, I generally think it's a good sign. And whilst it is doom and gloom at Manchester United right now, when you look at these players on just like a list, for example, and you add Chido and you add Diego Leon and then you add like Harry Amas and some of our really good young players into the mix as well. The future's bright.
Yeah. What have you made of Dorgu?
Yeah, I really like him. I thought when he first came in, was it Wolves away where like Garnacho was just ignoring him? I can't remember which game it was. I
don't remember if it was Wolves, but I
can't remember which game it was. There was a game where he came in and it's like there was all those clips on there of like Garnacho where he could have played it to him and he would have been able to get down the line. He just didn't, just ignored him. And I think there's been a bit less of that now. The team are realising, look, he is a quality player. Give him the ball. He can create things. We've seen that. I know he had the red card against was it Ipswich?
Yes.
But other than that, I think he's just got better and better, and you can see what he's about. You can see how he fits, like Michael was saying, into this Amorim system as well. And he's an exciting player. Whenever I see players getting forward at United, like I know he's a wing back, but it's almost like an old school winger, innit? Getting down that line. I just want him to have the confidence to run at players, to try and take players on, to try and do the overlap. And he does all that. You saw him at Goodison, he kept wanting the ball. And even if something doesn't come off, even if he doesn't find his man, he'll keep going. He doesn't shy away from it. We've had too many players who play it safe, who go backwards, who don't try and get down that line, don't try and whip it in. But he's not that guy. He will do those things that we need. So, yeah, I've been impressed.
And the signings that have held us back, this isn't to dig anyone out, but you look at him and it's like Sancho's, the Anthony's, the Casemiro potentially, although he's improved recently, maybe Onana. Like, you look at the recruitment from previous summers and previous windows, and that's everything. Like Christian Eriksen and Casemiro being our midfield hasn't helped.
Yeah.
Having no right wingers because we spent all that money on Sancho and Anthony hasn't helped. Like, that's where the recruitment's messed us up. And like when people look at the squad, the only good things that we have out of the squad are recent windows and young kids.
Yeah. And I think with Dorgu as well, and with all of them, when I look at them all individually, I see a real lack of like egos, and I don't mean that as in they don't have confidence or they're not, but I can't imagine a story coming out about any of those in the newspaper that they weren't trying in training, or they were turning up late, or they couldn't be bothered, or their the teammates don't like them. They all seem quite likeable from what we see, but they all work hard, and they don't seem like I'm too big to do that, I'm too big for that. They're genuinely up for it, and I think that's a really good thing to put into the squad, because like you said, Adam, we've had too many players at times where it's like, well, I didn't, the weather wasn't great, so I couldn't be asked. Or, what was it? Di Maria's wife didn't like Manchester, so he basically checked out.
It's like, look at Bruno. Like, Roy Keane says something about him, and he goes, all right, he's one of the greatest captains that ever played for United.
Yeah.
He deserves his opinion, but watch this.
Yeah.
And it's like, Zirkzee, all right, you boo me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to get better. I'm going to improve.
Yeah.
I'm going to work hard.
Yeah.
So you don't have to boo me ever again.
No.
And it's like there's a way to reacting, and I feel like these players that we've brought in are all reacting in the right way.
Yeah.
No one's feeling sorry for themselves.
Should we stick Dorgu in the decent category? I know again, it's very soon and it's maybe too early, but just for the sake of it's not Matt,
it'd be harsh to put Matt.
If he had come in summer, we'd probably be saying success.
Yeah, I agree.
So far, so
I think
good.
as well with Dorgu, they're not the same type of player, but he almost, that kind of like relentlessness. He reminded me a little bit of Antonio Valencia.
Yeah.
It's just like, he is just running non-stop. Like he's always, how is he there? He was just there and now he's tackling there. Like he had an element of that against Sociedad where I was like, this is almost miraculous how much he's getting about the pitch, and I love that. Let's look generally, because you see there, we've got Mazraoui and De Ligt as successors, we've got Zirkzee, Ugarte, Dorgu and Yoro.
And somehow we're still 13. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, exactly. But overall, how are you ranking INEOS in all this?
Are you doing Aiden Heaven, or are you?
No, we're going to leave them off it because I think it's too soon to say.
I think
but we like them as transfers, just chatting generally.
You shouldn't rank.
Yeah.
No.
And maybe it's a bit early for Yoro as well. I know he's their age, but obviously with the price tag, it's a slightly.
No, the only reason I mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned Heaven.
Yeah, we talked about him with the Chido.
Oh right,
stuff,
Chido. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
No, I see you listening.
I was listening. My memory's not what it used to be.
What have you made of INEOS? Because all of these deals we've said we quite like them. Maybe is that because it's too early to rule anyone out? I don't know.
What did you say, Joe?
Whilst I like these players and they've all been positive signings, it's far too early, man. We're still bottom half of the table.
Yeah.
And we've done okay with the signings, but we're still not scoring enough goals. We're still leaking too many goals. We're still losing too many football matches. So I think it'd be a bit silly. In theory, yeah, it makes sense, but I think we've got to wait and see. It's for me. I'd feel like a bit of an idiot going, INEOS have been mint since they come in with these signings, and you go, well, where are we in the table? And a lot of these players
worst we've ever been.
They play a lot of games, so I think we still have to wait and see.
One of the things as well that would have improved is the wages these players are on.
That's a good point.
It's nowhere near. So even if they are failures now, or someone fails, we're going to be able to get rid of them and at a decent fee because they're not going to be on 350 grand a week.
I think the only one who looks like there's even been a hint of, is he going to stay or is he going to move on, is Zirkzee. And I don't actually think he will end up moving on. I think he will stay.
Yeah.
My boy. He wants to fight for this love.
But yeah, I think overall it is very much we're taking one step back or two steps back to hopefully take 3, 4 and 5 steps forward. We kind of, it feels like, I know we have had this sort of open heart surgery in quotes of like getting rid of Ronaldo and some of the players that we've got rid of over the last 3 or 4 years, Paul Pogba's and Lingard's and whatever. But I do feel like we kind of replaced them with almost like for likes. Like we like, all right, we need to change the mentality. So instead of having an old striker like Igalo, we're going to bring in Cristiano Ronaldo, who's 4 years older. Like, it was kind of like, yes, we've recycled, but we haven't changed the idea of what United's going to be. This is the age is different, like you said, the wage is different, the attitudes of these players seems different so far. I think that we're actually genuinely kind of scrubbing the ground clean and starting again a little bit here, and I'm really excited about the types of players we're bringing in. Again, that's not to say
the youthful
INEOS are amazing. But
some of these signings as well
sense.
almost feel like, I know this sounds crazy, but almost like manager proof.
Yeah.
Like Matthijs De Ligt can play under almost anyone in almost any system. I don't think you go, if Amorim, we all want him to work out, and I think he will, but if he doesn't, I don't think you go, well, we're going to have to sell De Ligt now.
No.
You think, well, why? Even Ugarte, you think, I know he played under him at Sporting, but you think Ugarte could probably play in any system or under any manager. Where in the past you've had players that are so tied to a manager that when Ollie comes in, he wants to get rid of Jose's players, or when Jose comes in, he wants to get rid of Van Gaal's players. And that's been a massive issue at United.
Yeah.
But I don't see that with some of these signings. I feel like they're almost evergreen.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Like Will Young.
Like Will Young, indeed.
What a tune.
Right. Lovely. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks
for joining us, Adam.
Well
Get your
done,
thoughts
No
in.
one ever thanks you, Joe.
Yeah, well
Thank
done,
you.
Joe.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you.
Joe.
That's
Thank you
really
for your
nice,
service.
Thank you. We usually say that to veterans. Get your thoughts in the comments, by the way. Have we misranked any of these players? Is it too soon? We know it's a bit too soon, but we wanted to be positive while we still can.
Yeah, man.
Because if the next few games are very tough. We've got a Forest, we've got a Newcastle, we've got a City.
Manchester Derby as well,
we've got
man.
Leon. We might be sat here in a month's time putting all these in the failure bracket.
Or we might be putting them all in the success column.
We'll have to invent one above success.
Yeah.
Sucking off.
Yeah, when we batter City.
Yeah, exactly. Suck him off at the top. Who knows? Thank you for joining us. See you in a bit. Suck him off. Put them all in there. Did you